North Carolina. North Carolina is known for a lot of things. Basketball, NASCAR, rednecks, you name it. They got it. This is actually my home state. And no, I'm not going to disclose my location to the public. But today, we're going to be talking about the 10 most dangerous cities in North Carolina that have over 10,000 residents. And I know there's probably going to be some YouTube commenters saying, "You're an idiot. I love where I live. It's safe here. Have you ever left your mom's basement?" No matter what you think, I'm the one who did the research, and I say that these cities are dangerous. So, I don't want to hear it. So, if you live in a safe city, grab a glass of wine and sit back and relax. But if you live in a dangerous city, grab your sniper and your pepper spray as we get started. Our first stop along our most dangerous journey through the Tar Heel State starts in, surprisingly, Roanoke Rapids. Roanoke Rapids is the only city on our top 10 that is not in the top 10 for violent crime rates. But instead, Roanoke Rapids has a very high property crime rate where you have a 1 in 20 chance of being the victim of a property crime yourself if you lived in Roanoke Rapids for a year. Oh, don't get me wrong, Roanoke Rapids is still one of the most violent places in the state. In fact, it's the 12th highest when it comes to violent crime rates, where you have a 1 in 119 chance of being the victim of a violent crime yourself, if you lived here for a year. In fact, in many parts of Roanoke Rapids, you better carry a weapon, unless you wanted to buy some heroin, meth, or crack, then you fit right in. Next up on our danger zone tour of the Tar Heel State brings us to Winston-Salem. Now, if you talk to Winston-Salem residents, lots of them will claim they should be atop this list. Winston-Salem is the 8th most violent place in the state, where you have a 1 in 113 chance of being the victim of a violent crime yourself if you lived here for a year. In fact, Winston-Salem's the type of place where you don't want to let your guard down, or you're gonna have a bad time. You would also have a 1 in 33 chance of being the victim of a property crime, which isn't as high as other locations, but it's still pretty bad. Shelby is another dangerous city in North Carolina. It's located not too far away from Charlotte. Shelby is very bad when it comes to violent crime. It shares 6th place with another city where you have a 1 in 105 chance of being the victim of a violent crime if you lived here for a year. For perspective, in Pinehurst, North Carolina, your chances of being in a violent crime are over 1 in 2,300. 22 times safer than Shelby. The 7th most dangerous city on my list, Kinston, sure could use some love. Make sure to avoid Kinston after dark, because you have a 1 in 113 chance of being the victim of a violent crime if you lived here for a year. If you don't want to be killed, stay in the north and west parts of Kinston. If you want to be killed, go to the east and south parts of Kinston. You would also have a 1 in 27 chance of being the victim of a property crime if you lived in Kinston, so don't be surprised to come home and see your gaming setup destroyed. Statesville, North Carolina is usually on these lists, ranging from about the 5th to 10th position normally. Statesville only saw 1 murder last year, but you still have a 1 in 105 chance of being the victim of a violent crime if you lived here for a year, mainly because of rapes and assaults. The property crime rate here is also bad, where you have a 1 in 26 chance of being the victim of one yourself, if you lived here for a year. That means there's a lot of stolen cars, cell phones, and even toys. If you think someone would steal your old Michael Jackson CD, you'd be right. And if you look at this map, it looks like the whole city center is bad. And I would guess especially after dark. Welcome to Salisbury, the 5th most dangerous place in North Carolina. Here you have a 1 in 104 chance of being the victim of a rape, attack, or murder. Yikes. You would also have about a 4% chance of being the victim of a property crime if you lived in Salisbury for a year. And just like Statesville, Salisbury looks like the entire city center is dangerous, and it's probably just gonna get worse. If you drove your beat-up car all the way down to Scotland County, you'd come to Laurinburg, North Carolina. And you'd be scared. Laurinburg is the 3rd most violent place in the state, where you have a decent chance of being attacked or shot at if you wind up in the wrong neighborhood. According to this crime map, the northern city center of Laurinburg is the worst part of Laurinburg. Oh yeah, and it's also worth noting that you'd have a 1 in 23 chance of being the victim of a property crime if you lived here for a year. In fact, if you wear the wrong hat in some parts of Laurinburg, you're gonna get iced. So you better play it safe to stay out of trouble. And it gets worse. The 3rd most dangerous place in North Carolina is Goldsboro. Goldsboro is in the top 5 for violent crime and property crime ranking, where you have a 1 in 67 chance of being the victim of a violent crime and a 1 in 16 chance of being the victim of a property crime. This person says the only thing to do in Goldsboro is get drunk, shot, or robbed. That's real welcoming. Okay, time to get out of Goldsboro. It's time to go to the top of the state for 2nd place. If you want to see a real mess, head over to Henderson in Vance County near the Virginia state line. Henderson is also one of the most dangerous cities in the entire country statistically, and if you lived in Henderson for a year, you have a 1 in 55 chance of being the victim of a violent crime and a 1 in 20 chance of being the victim of a property crime. And last year in Henderson, people had just over a 1 in 2,000 chance of being murdered. Because when you divide the murders in Henderson by the population of Henderson, statistically, this is the murder capital of this entire state. And look at this, Henderson is safer than only 1% of all US cities. But hey, Henderson has one of the last remaining drive-in movie theaters, and they can't steal cars at a drive-in. Or can they? And where's the most dangerous city in North Carolina? That would be Lumberton by a landslide. This is both the most violent and the place where you have the highest chance of being robbed in the entire state. Where you would have a 1 in 50 chance of being the victim of a violent crime, which is one of the highest rates in the entire country, and a 1 in 9 chance of being robbed, which is also one of the highest rates in the entire country. This is where Michael Jordan's dad was killed, remember? And Lumberton is safer than 0% of all US cities. 0 of them. So there you have it. The 10 most dangerous places in North Carolina. Now I know we could include some other cities like, for example, Fayetteville, or Greensboro, or Rocky Mount, or Burlington. Those are also pretty dangerous places, but yeah, some of the safest cities in North Carolina, if you're wondering, are Pinehurst, Davidson, and Apex, North Carolina. I will make a safest videos in North Carolina later. But anyway, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.